Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Person.
Here.
Mr. Prince.
Here.
Mr. Corman.
Here.
Mr. Pavoni.
Here.
Ms. Perez.
Here.
And Mr. McIrvin.
Here.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor. All present.
Thanks, Jason. First item on the agenda is the proclamation.
Okay, proclamation, Red Ribbon Week 2019. Proclamation, whereas alcohol and other drug abuse in this nation has reached epidemic stages, and whereas it is imperative that visible, unified prevention education efforts by community members be launched to eliminate the demand for drugs, and whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign offers citizens the opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to drug-free lifestyles, no use of illegal drugs, and no illegal use of legal drugs. And whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign will be celebrated in every community in America during Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd to 31, and whereas businesses, government, parents, law enforcement, media, medical or religious institutions, schools, senior citizens, service organizations, and youth will demonstrate their commitment to healthy, drug-free lifestyles by wearing and displaying red ribbons during this week-long campaign. And whereas the City of Renton further commits its resources to ensure the success of the Red Ribbon Campaign. Now therefore, I, Dennis Law, Mayor of the City of Renton, do hereby proclaim October 23 through 31, 2019, to be Red Ribbon Week 2019 in the City of Renton, and I encourage all citizens to join me in participating in drug prevention education activities, making a visible statement that we are strongly committed to a drug-free state. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Renton to be affixed this 21st day of October 2019, signed Dennis Law, Mayor of the City of Renton.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Person.
I move the proclamation be adopted as read.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Person, second by Mr. Prince, that this proclamation be adopted as read. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. So we're pleased to present this proclamation to Stephanie Hines from the Renton Police Department. Stephanie, come on up.
Can I make a few comments?
Yeah, as soon as you get your picture taken.
Okay.
And you have to smile.
First, I brought some Red Ribbon Week ribbons and bracelets. I'll leave them in the back for everyone. But Red Ribbon Week is the nation's oldest and largest drug prevention awareness program. Red Ribbon Week started after the death of DEA Special Agent Enrique Kiki Carmona, who in 1985 was brutally tortured and murdered by drug traffickers he was investigating in Mexico. After Kiki's death, people started wearing red ribbons to honor his sacrifice. Today, millions of people celebrate Red Ribbon Week by wearing red ribbons, participating in community anti-drug events, and pledging to live their lives drug-free. Here in Renton, the Renton Police Department, we partner with the Renton School District to provide a drug-free poster contest to 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. This year's theme is Send a Message, Stay Drug-Free. And we have 21 classrooms participating, representing 562 students that will participate this week in the contest. We will also visit Benson Hill Elementary during recess and have the DEA and Crime Stoppers with us to interact with all the youth.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. That's great work. Okay, we get to segue into a public hearing. Jan Hahn.
Thank you, Mayor Law. Tonight we have a public hearing on the mid-biennial budget update. The purpose of the mid-biennium budget update is to update the general fund revenues with changed conditions, to make housekeeping changes for actions that council has already taken, and make adjustments where there are unexpected cost or proposed departmental changes. The actions require setting the property tax levy for 2020, adopting the budget amendments, and updating the fee schedule. Council set the budget calendar on October 7th, and this is the first of 2 public hearings for the mid-biennium update. The preliminary assessed value from King County for the city of Renton for 2020 is $19.9 billion. State law allows cities to increase their base property tax levy by the lower of inflation or 1% and for new construction. The 2020 proposed budget contemplates $21.1 million in property tax revenues. There are no property tax increases proposed for 2020. We will update the ordinance once we get the final numbers from King County. This slide shows a number of revenue adjustments for 2019 and 2020. These changes are the result of our actual year-to-date collections. There are none of these which represent a tax increase for either property owners or businesses. This slide represents all of the proposed changes on the expenditure side for 2019 and 2020. All of these changes have been previously discussed with council and are approved by council. There is one exception, which is the arts program, which the Community Services Committee will be discussing this coming week. There are a few non-general fund adjustments as well. We are making an adjustment for debt service and projects related to the 2019 local revitalization funding and parks bonds, for Williams and Wells, for funding for Duval Avenue, for consolidating the city's art program into a newly named municipal arts fund, and to make a correction for the previously approved authorization in an appropriation for the Family First Community Center. There are only 2 proposed changes to fees. That includes the installation costs for street naming at $250, and then the updated 2020 school impact fees. It should be noted that the school impact fees are simply a pass-through, that we collect, a fee that we collect for the school districts and we remit back to the school districts. And with that, I will turn it back over to you for the public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Jan. Any questions from council? Okay, this is a public hearing. I don't have anybody signed up to testify for the public hearing. Is there anybody that wanted to testify?
I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Person, second by Mr. Corman, that the public hearing be closed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All righty. Administrative report, Jan.
Thank you, Mayor Law. Tonight I have 3 items. First, the Forestry Division in Parks Planning and Natural Resources has finalized a tree planting contract to replace trees in the downtown core. A number of trees did not do well in the graded locations. 34 trees have been removed and will be replaced with 6 different varieties of trees over the next couple of months. Disruption should be minimal. Second, fall rainy season is here. Street sweepers are dispatched to clean up debris along major arterials, but the Public Works Department would like to remind residents to help to prevent local residential street flooding. Be sure to monitor catch basins near your home and keep them clear of leaves and other debris. If you notice excessive water collecting in these areas where catch basins may be clogged, please contact us. Finally, there are a number of preventative street maintenance, traffic impact projects, and road closures happening this week. More information can be found on our website. Thank you, Mayor Law.
Okay, thank you, Jan. Moving on to audience comments, we have one person signed up to address the council. When I call your name, please come to the podium, give your name and city of residence for the record, and you have 5 minutes. Jason.
Okay, so just I wanted to know if anybody in the police department's died of diabetic cardiac arrest lately. I just I'm like asking around town, just seeing if anybody else didn't catch something. I don't even know what it is, but if there isn't, then that shows a problem. Look, the salmon are spawning, right? So they're going to be netting fish like the natives. I don't have the right to net fish, and I don't like fish anyway, right? But you cut into my beef prices, so could you gut the fish upstream, like in the creeks, like Honeydew Creek? There was a beaver in Honeydew Creek like 5 years ago. The beaver would bring the fish to the top of the creek, right, like the little tiny stream, and he would eat the fish there, and then it would grow bugs, right? But because he killed male and female fish, right, there was little fishies growing in the streams up top, right? That way they don't get washed right out to sea or whatever. Anyway, maybe that will help with the depreciating salmon due to the fact there are no dams on the river, right? So I got told that, and I'm not totally positive, that it was a Alaskan cop that shot up the Jason Aldean concert, right? And considering I'm red listed or whatever you want to call it, right? Like, because the Renton Reporter won't print my name, and I'm running for mayor, and every time I put up a sign, it gets taken down. So I put up some at the Transit Center behind the blackberry bushes, so you can try to get them out. Way too fun. So, by the way, the police department, you guys get new flak jackets and shit. Do you guys gift those away to people, either countries that are war-torn? Like, there's a difference between gifting a gun to somebody and gifting a flak jacket to somebody, right? But the U.S. military first, right? Because all those kids went over to Afghanistan and died because they didn't have flak jackets, right? Well, maybe you could do it for both sides of a war, right? Because you guys buy 2 tanks and stuff, and they're on Talbot Hill, right? Why do we have a tank on Talbot Hill? It should be by Boeing, right? That just makes more sense. Does Social Security have a welfare checker that goes to each individual check cashing person every year to see whether or not they actually are alive? That might help save Social Security, all right? And maybe get the old people their food stamps back or whatever, right? I mean, there's a bunch of that fraud, right? Cashing Social Security checks. If they're not alive, they can't cash them. And on top of that, you could stop the dead people from voting, right? So, if you guys go to the range, right, the food bank has problems with rats. Anything that's in a plastic bag, right, like tuna in a plastic bag, the rats will go to that plastic bag, and then they'll chew through it because they found it once. They'll chew through the plastic to see what comes out, right? So what they do to keep the rats out of the food bank is give it to the homeless, right? So that just puts rats in the homeless people's tents, right? Because they don't even have 4 walls to keep them out, right? So the rats carry disease. It's all a bad deal. So could you take ammo cases, right? If you buy bulk, you get the metal case where that clips in it, to keep the rats out of the food in the food bank and out elsewhere, right? Who knows? Might help. I don't know. I'm just trying to think something better than a plastic crate, right? If you go into like Afghanistan, right, and you got roadside bombs, right, why don't you send people from neighboring countries in to buy up chemicals that you could cause people to make roadside bombs with, right, before you go in? Do you follow me? So that there's less of them, or at least in the cities where there was the most casualties. And can you back that up? I mean, even you could do it through C-SPAN or whatever, or running your cars at 60 miles an hour at 2 o'clock in the morning with the lights off, right? So, yeah, that was about it. I'm shooting for 11% of the populist vote for president. so that I can get funding to run for president in 2024 off the dollar for the president deal, right? So from income tax, right? So if you're not voting for the Democratic Party candidate that the state always gets, it would be nice to get it. Then I could maybe do some of these things that I talk about. But since I'm blackballed by the city.
Okay, I'm sorry, Jason, your 5 minutes are up.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. We have 4 items for council consideration. Are there any items that council member would like pulled for discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I move the consent agenda be adopted as presented.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Person, second by Mr. Prince, that council adopt the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Unfinished business, Mr. Person.
No unfinished business.
Okay, Mr. Prince?
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Corman?
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Pavoni?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Finance has a few committee reports to be read tonight.
Okay, Finance Committee, committee report, approval of claims and payroll vouchers. The Finance Committee approves the following payments: accounts payable, total payment of $5,291,955.69 for a number of payroll vouchers, regular vouchers, and 2-wire transfers. Payroll, total payment of $1,502,986.20 for payroll vouchers, which includes 677 direct deposits and 8 checks. That's the 9/16 through 9/30/2019 pay period. And then at Kidder Matthew, total payment of $39,236.20 for a number of vouchers. This is signed by the committee chair and vice chair.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Pavoni?
I move the council concur with the Finance Committee report.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Pavoni, second by Mr. Prince, that council concur with the Finance Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
And the next report is regarding a local agency agreement with the Washington State Department of Transportation for middle school and elementary school crossings project. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the local agency agreement with the Washington State Department of Transportation for the obligation of grant funding and all subsequent agreements necessary to accomplish the Renton Elementary and Middle School Crossings project. This is signed by the committee chair and vice chair.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Pavoni?
I move the council concur with the Finance Committee report.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Pavoni, second by Mr. Prince, that council concur with the Finance Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the next report is regarding compensating a civil engineer 3 at Step E of grade A29. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to authorize staff to compensate Michael Sippo as a civil engineer 3 at Step E of grade A29, effective November 12, 2019, signed committee chair and vice chair.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move the council concur with the Finance Committee report.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Pavoni, second by Mr. Prince, that this council concur with the Finance Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the next committee report is regarding the new judicial position. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation that council authorize the creation of a new judicial position that is necessary due to the sustained increases in the photo enforcement caseload, jury trials, and after-hours search warrants. Signed by the committee chair and vice chair.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Pavoni?
I move the council concur with the Finance Committee report.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Pavoni, second by Mr. Prince, that council concur with the Finance Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the next report is regarding capital project coordinator, park planning. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to hire the capital project coordinator, park planning, at pay grade A28, Step E. The position is currently budgeted at pay grade A28, Step E. The increased costs in 2019 will be absorbed by salary savings. The position was advertised 3 times within 5 months, with 8 applicants being invited for interviews during the recruitment processes. One candidate met all of the qualifications of the position and is a licensed landscape architect, has extensive environmental and park design, permitting, construction administration, community engagement, and grant writing experience. This is signed by the committee chair and vice chair.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Pavoni.
I move the council concur with the finance committee committee reports.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Pavoni, second by Mr. Prince, that council concur with the Finance Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the next report is regarding the Sunset Neighborhood Park Phase 2 construction contract. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to approve the construction contract for the Sunset Neighborhood Park Phase 2 project as advertised through the Daily Journal of Business to Terra Dynamics Incorporated in the amount of $4,059,000 to complete the project. The committee further recommends that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the contract. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Pavoni.
I move the council concur with the finance committee committee report.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Pavoni, second by Mr. Prince, that council concur with the Finance Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay, a couple more. Finance Committee report, approval of stop-loss contract with Symetra for 2020. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to approve the 2020 excess loss, also known as stop-loss, insurance contract with Symetra, and authorizes the mayor and city clerk to sign the implementing documents when they're ready. The 2020 Symetra contract has a premium increase of 8.5% over 2019, and the individual deductible amount remains at $250,000. This is signed by the committee chair and vice chair.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Pavoni.
I move the council concur with the finance committee committee report.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Pavoni, second by Mr. Prince, that council concur with the Finance Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the final report, Finance Committee report, water leak adjustment, MVP Dental Holdings LLC. The Finance Committee recommends approving the water leak adjustment request and crediting the account of MVP Dental Holdings LLC located at 300 Pelly Avenue North in the amount of $3,957.90 for the applicable water, sewer, and King County Metro portions of the bill in accordance with City Code 8446 and 8523. This is signed by the committee chair and vice chair.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr.
I
Pavoni.
move the council concur with the finance committee committee report.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Pavoni, second by Mr. Prince, that council concur with this Finance Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it.
That is all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Perez.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. McIrvin.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
All righty, moving on to legislation. We have one ordinance for first reading and one for second and final.
Okay, the ordinance for first reading is regarding the new judicial position. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, amending Chapter 3-10 of the Renton Municipal Code, clarifying the authority of the Renton Municipal Court, creating a new full-time judicial position, providing for severability, and establishing an effective date.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Person.
No, go ahead, Mr. Person.
No, go ahead. I was jumping in where I shouldn't.
Okay, Mr. Pavoni.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that this ordinance be moved to the next council meeting for the second and final reading.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Pavoni, second by Mr. Prince, that this ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting. Any further discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay, the final ordinance is for second and final reading. It's regarding the governing board term language for the Renton Regional Fire Authority. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, amending Section 2-21-4 of the Renton Municipal Code by updating Renton Regional Fire Authority governing board term language, providing for severability, and establishing an effective date.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Person.
I move the ordinance be adopted as read.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Person, second by Mr. Prince, that this ordinance be adopted as read, and it requires a roll call.
Hey, Mr. Person,
Aye.
Mr. Prince,
Aye.
Mr. Corman,
Aye.
Mr. Pavoni,
Aye.
Ms. Perez,
Aye.
and Mr. McIrvin.
Aye.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor, all ayes.
Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you, Jason. Moving on to new business, Mr. Person.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just one thing to announce for next Monday, October 28th at 6 p.m. The Committee of the Whole will meet in the council chambers. The two topics, a WashDOT/Sound Transit update, and number 2, emerging issues. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Prince?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, on Monday, October 28th,
2019 at 4 p.m. The Planning and Development Committee will be meeting in the council conference room. We have 3 items on the agenda. Number 1 is docket number 14. Second, multifamily property tax exemption update. And then finally, emerging issues in CED. And that's all,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Corman.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Pavoni.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Ms. Perez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Monday, October 28 at 5 p.m., the Utilities Committee will meet at the Council Conference Room. We have 5 items in the agenda. First, Verizon Small Cell Franchise Agreement, new Singular Wireless Small Cell Franchise Agreement, Renton Hill Utility Project Change Order, Monroe Avenue Storm Improvement Project Agreement, and finally, emerging issues in utilities.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McIrvin?
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the city attorney?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Person, second by Mr. Prince, that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.